There's a road in British Columbia, twisting through the trees like a vein, connecting towns, but separating the living from the dead. Dewdney Trunk Road is more than just asphalt. It's haunted ground. Originally built in the 1800s as a critical route through the Lower Mainland, Dewdney Trunk Road was part of the colonial infrastructure, linking settlements, sawmills, and outposts. But with every year and every tragedy, the road collected stories, and some say, souls. Tonight, we'll journey through 5 terrifying encounters reported along this stretch. These are true accounts, retold to chill your blood. The Phantom Hitchhiker. They say she appears when the fog rolls in, a pale young woman standing at the shoulder, dressed in white or gray, her eyes hollow with grief. Drivers have offered her rides, taken pity on her silence, only to glance back and find the seat empty. In one case, a man claimed she whispered her name. When he checked, it matched a woman who died in a crash on that very road 50 years ago. Some say she's reliving her last ride home. Others believe she doesn't want to ride. She wants closure. And if you don't stop for her, sometimes she finds her own way in. The Vanishing Crash. Late at night, near Maple Ridge, a sudden screech of tires, a vehicle overturned, lights spinning, metal bent and smoking. But when Good Samaritans stop, there's nothing. No wreck, no victims, not even skid marks. Police have received the same call over and over for decades. Always the same stretch of road, always the same ghostly scene. Some say it's a time loop. Others say the souls trapped in that wreck want to be noticed again. One officer claimed he saw flames, ran toward them, and walked into empty woods. Some say if you follow the noise, you'll never return. The Screaming Trees. Near Stave Falls, when the wind dies and night falls heavy, the forest screams. Not animal, not human, something in between, raw and full of agony. Locals talk of a woman attacked, her cries echoing through time. Others warn of ancient creatures, drawn to grief and blood. Some drivers have found claw marks on signs, gouges too deep for any man, trees bent in impossible ways. Legend says the forest remembers pain. It holds it, amplifies it, until it screams it back at you. Shadow figures. They appear in your peripheral vision, unmoving silhouettes along the shoulder. Sometimes they vanish as your beams hit them. Sometimes they appear behind you. A driver once swore he locked eyes with one, a man with no face, only emptiness where the features should be. They say these are old spirits, displaced by concrete or drawn by tragedy. They line the road, waiting, watching, and sometimes they follow, all the way home. The Ghost Car. An old car appears behind you. Rusted chrome, yellow headlights, engine snarling. It gets closer, uncomfortably close. Then, gone. No turn, no brake, just gone. One man followed it off the road. No tracks, no crash, just empty woods. They say it's the ghost of a bootlegger who died in a chase, his soul never able to stop running. Sometimes you hear his horn, sometimes his engine starts up behind you, even if you're not alone. If you ever drive down Dewdney Trunk Road at night, keep your doors locked, eyes on the road, and whatever you do, don't stop. There's a stretch of road in northern British Columbia known for more than just isolation. Highway 16, the Highway of Tears, winds between Prince George and Prince Rupert. It is haunted not only by spirits, but by silence, injustice, and grief. Since the 1970s, dozens of Indigenous women and some men have vanished or been murdered along this lonely corridor, but the dead have not gone quietly. Tonight, we explore 5 chilling encounters, each tied to the souls that still linger in the shadows. The Lady in the Ditch. Near Mauricetown and Smithers, truckers talk of a woman by the roadside, soaked to the bone, even when the skies are dry. She doesn't wave, she doesn't speak, just stares, eyes sunken like she's been crying for decades. When drivers pull over to help, she's gone. Some only notice her in the rearview mirror, just before their vehicle breaks down. Cree and Wet'suwet'en elders say she is a warning, or a soul that cannot rest, a memory of someone stolen. Voices in the forest. People who stop along Highway 16 often speak of strange sounds, not animals, not the wind. One man, whose car overheated near Houston, heard whispers from the trees, like a dozen voices crying without breath. He said it was like the forest itself was grieving. First Nations elders believe the land remembers, that grief seeps into root and rock. Some leave offerings, tobacco, ribbon, prayers to show respect. But even then, not all spirits rest. The Faceless Woman. A traveler recounted a chilling encounter near a streetlight along Highway 16. They saw an elderly woman in a red shawl standing beneath the glow. Moments later, the car's radio began to hiss with static. Dashboard lights flickered. Then ahead on the road, she was there again, the same woman. As they passed, she lifted her head. Her face was completely blank. No eyes, no mouth, just smooth, pale skin like clay. The traveler drove on, too afraid to stop, but the image stayed with them, unshakable. Who she was, or what she wanted, remains unknown. The feeling of being followed. Even in daylight, hikers and travelers speak of it. A presence. Just behind you, just beyond your reach. Some say it feels like sorrow clinging to their spine. Others like they're being watched by unseen eyes. One woman walking a short trail near Telkwa turned, sure someone was behind her. Nothing, but she heard soft crying inside her own bones. It's not malevolent, not always, but it's there. A reminder. This place does not forget. Spirits of the forgotten. Some say the entire highway is covered by a spiritual fog, that the veil is thinner here, that time bleeds. First Nations elders speak of ancestral spirits walking the road at dusk, mourning, watching, waiting. They believe the spirits of the missing, those taken unjustly, blur the lines between worlds, protecting some, confusing others. There are stories of headlights failing, GPS cutting out, travelers losing track of time, as if the road bends reality itself. And some elders won't travel it after dark. The Highway of Tears is a place of mystery, of mourning, and of memory. To tell ghost stories here is to speak the names of the missing, to remember what others tried to forget. If you ever drive Highway 16, leave no one behind. They say some houses are simply old, but others are ancient in memory. If walls could speak, this one would scream. Welcome to Adorable Skull, where haunted history meets the nightmares hiding in plain sight. Don't forget to subscribe, if you dare. Nestled in Vancouver's elite Shaughnessy neighborhood, Highcroft Manor was more than a home. It was a statement. Built between 1909 and 1911 for General Alexander Duncan McRae, a Canadian war hero and wealthy businessman, the mansion became a 20,000 square foot testament to prestige and eventually to pain. With over 30 rooms, marble fireplaces, grand staircases, and secret spaces, the manor lived many lives. From opulent parties to wartime trauma, it served as a convalescent hospital for veterans from 1942 to 1960. And like many places touched by war, some who entered never left. Today, it's a cultural landmark, home to the University Women's Club. But beneath its historic charm lingers something colder, something permanent. The General walks alone. They say he appears just after sunset. An older man in a pristine World War I officer's uniform, standing still in the main hallway, staring at the fireplace as though he never left the front lines. Security guards have reported the same thing for decades, the sound of boots on the grand staircase. Not creaks, footfalls, deliberate, measured, as if someone were still commanding the house. One caretaker, new to the building, once followed the footsteps, expecting a late guest. Instead, she found the hallway empty, except for a trail of wet prints leading to the study. When she stepped inside, the fire roared to life, unlit just seconds before. The air reeked of gunpowder and iron. She never returned. Those who've seen him up close say his face is calm until you meet his eyes, because they don't see you. They see something beyond you, something dying. And if you stand too long, you'll start to hear the shelling, the screams, the sound of war echoing through marble halls that were never meant for blood. Blanche walks in silk. They say you'll smell her before you see her, a faint trace of rosewater and cold air drifting down the halls where no wind should pass. Blanche McRae, the General's wife, once hosted the city's most lavish gatherings at Highcroft. The clink of crystal, the hush of whispered secrets, the rustle of silk gowns under chandeliers the size of nightmares. But her beauty, they say, was rivaled only by her loneliness. And after the war, something in her changed. Guests recalled her gliding through rooms as if untethered from time, smiling politely at no one. Today, Blanche still roams the manor, dressed in ivory, her gown trailing behind her like a question unanswered. Staff have seen her reflection in mirrors, always facing away from them. A woman brushing hair that isn't there, a voice humming a waltz long forgotten. One visitor swears he saw her standing atop the grand staircase, staring down at him with eyes that glistened. No tears, just light trapped in glass. Then, without a sound, she stepped forward and vanished mid-fall. Some say she still waits for the ballroom to fill again, for music, for meaning. But the waltz ended long ago, and she never left the floor. The head nurse never clocked out. When war ended, the battle didn't. From 1942 to 1960, Highcroft Manor was repurposed into a convalescent hospital, a place where bodies healed, but minds unraveled. She was known only as the head nurse, stern, silent, tireless, the last to leave every ward. Until one night, she didn't. Some say she died in her sleep. Others whisper of a fall down the servants' stairwell, neck snapped silently against the stone. No official record was kept, just a sudden absence. Since then, caretakers report sterile smells, alcohol, blood, iodine, wafting through rooms long abandoned, patients' bells ringing without wires, and footsteps, heavy, deliberate, pacing in sequence, always just out of sight. One janitor quit after seeing her in the hallway mirror. Nurse's cap askew, eyes bloodshot, hands red, not with blood, with rust, from dragging an IV pole that didn't exist. She walks still, checking beds that aren't there, watching over ghosts who never went home. And if you hear a voice whisper, "Vitals stable, run," that means she thinks you're staying. The prankster's last laugh. Not all spirits linger in sorrow. Some stay for the mischief. 3 of them, veterans if you believe the lore, refused to move on. Maybe the afterlife was too quiet. Maybe they found Highcroft more amusing. They're known as the pranksters. Lights flicker, not from faulty wiring, but from unseen fingers tapping the switches. Doors open with a hiss, then slam shut, just as you pass. A pianist reported every key of the grand piano slamming down at once. No one nearby. Staff leave their coats neatly on hooks, only to find them stacked like corpses in the bathtub. Once, a guest claimed his shoelaces tied themselves together while he stood still. He tripped down the stairs and heard laughing. Not human. Not quite. They're harmless, they say, until they're not. Because when the games stop and the lights go out for good, what's left but to play with you? The crying man below. If you ever find yourself alone on Highcroft's lower floor, you'll know he's near when the air gets heavy. Not cold. Heavy like grief made physical. They call him the crying man. No one knows his name, only the sound. Wretched sobbing, like ribs cracking under the weight of a broken heart. It starts soft, behind a locked door, then closer and closer, until it's right next to your ear. One woman said she saw him once, slouched in the corner of a storage room, fingers in his mouth, as if trying to keep the screaming in. His eyes were pools of black, leaking tears that steamed when they hit the cold floor. A medium claimed he was a soldier who returned from war to find his family gone. Not from death, but from forgetting him. That grief anchored him here. They say if you stay long enough, he'll reach for your hand, not to hurt you, but to remember what warmth felt like. And if you take it, you'll cry too, forever. Janet Smith's whispered end. She was young, 22, Scottish, bright-eyed, hired as a nursemaid in 1924 for one of Vancouver's elite families. But Janet Smith didn't die at home. Not really. They found her body in the basement of a nearby residence. A single bullet to the head. No motive, no suspects, no justice. Whispers say it happened at a party inside Highcroft Manor, that she saw something she shouldn't have, something monstrous hiding behind money and smiles. So they silenced her and moved the body before sunrise. Ever since, guests report a chill when passing the East Wing. Some hear soft crying behind closed doors. Others see muddy footprints leading nowhere. One visitor awoke to find handprints on the mirror, small, childlike, but with fingernails broken, as if from clawing underground. A former archivist heard her voice in the library, "Tell them the truth," over and over, until the lights exploded. Justice never came, but Janet did. And if you listen in the silence, not with your ears but your guilt. You'll hear her waiting, not for revenge, for a confession. Adorable Skull will be back, but not all stories end with a closed door. Some keep it open.